Hi everyone! So a few months ago, a viewer of my channel left me a comment requesting that I do a drugstore makeup kit for beginners. And I thought that was a really interesting idea and perhaps a little bit challenging for me as well. I am somebody that for whatever reason, if there are two items in my collection, one is drugstore, one is high-end, I will almost always go towards the high-end product, even if they're sort of like equivalent. I think potentially I do this because I've spent the money on the higher end product and therefore I want to get more use out of it, versus the drugstore item may be just as good as the high-end version, but because it's cheaper, I don't have to worry about getting my money's worth. So these drugstore items are products that I don't have a dupe for in my collection in a higher end version. So these are the best that I possibly own from the drugstore. Before we dive into the makeup, I have to point out that Real Techniques makes the best drugstore brush range that I have ever tried. Their brushes never fail me, and I have dozens of them in my collection at this point because I've bought them over the years and they just don't fall apart on me. Now, the brushes are excellent, as are their sponges. This is the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge, and I think it's fantastic. I have tried every other dupe aside from the Beauty Blender because I refuse to spend that kind of money on a sponge. And this is just fantastic. I don't need another sponge in my life other than this one. Now let's dive into makeup. The first thing I'm gonna talk about is foundation, and I have two recommendations and kind of like a bonus third one, which will only be relevant if you're in certain countries. But the first ones I'm gonna talk about are the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation and the Revlon Color Stay Liquid Foundation. I have used the Revlon Color Stay for years. I think this was the first foundation I ever actually purchased, and it was far and away one of the best I've ever tried at the drugstore. Now, drugstore prices can be pretty up there lately. I don't necessarily feel like they always feel like drugstore prices, because the Revlon Color Stay I think goes for like 22 or 23 Canadian, so it is a little bit of an investment. If you're looking for something a little bit cheaper, you could try the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation. I believe this goes between $5 to $7, and this stuff is fantastic. I was totally blown away by just not how much coverage it gave me, but also how it wore throughout the day. It just looked really, really good by the end of a work day, which surprised me because I mean, it's like cheap as chips. It's like $5. Like, that's not a lot of money, and yet the quality is there. Now, the other one I need to mention honorably is more relevant if you live in the UK. It's the Bourjois Healthy Mix Serum Foundation. Now, in Canada, this goes for like $36 Canadian, but you can get it for, I think it's £10 in the UK, maybe a little bit cheaper. It's super good and one of my favorite foundations ever, but it really is only drugstore prices if you're in the UK or Ireland. Moving on to bronzer, I have only one in this category because it is the absolute best and I can't imagine recommending anything other than this. It's the Butter Bronzer by Physicians Formula. This thing is incredible. Now, they do struggle quite a bit with their shade range. They have only just recently released a few darker shades, so this is more for the pale folk out there, but this, you can't do anything wrong with this. You cannot screw up putting this on your face. It is the perfect tone. It blends beautifully. It also smells amazing, kind of like sunscreen and like Hawaiian tropical beach oil. But this looks flawless on my face, and you can see I've hit pan because I love this one intensely. For blush, I have two brands. The first one I'm going to talk about is by Essence, and this is their Silky Touch Blush range. And I know I've still seen these at Shoppers Drug Mart, but I think they might be phasing them out. That being said, I've never had any problems with any of Essence's blushes, so I have to say that these are one of the best at the drugstore, and they are just quite inexpensive. I think they're around $4 each, which makes picking them up not feel so painful. Like, you can get a few shades and not feel like you're breaking the bank. This one here is Autumn Peach, beautiful, like wear everyday kind of shade. And this one is, what are you? Life's a Cherry, a little bit more vibrant, and I really, really like that about this blush. And the other blushes I have to mention are Milani's Rose Blushes. So these are a powder blush that are unbelievable in size. These things have 17 grams of product, which is unreal because, for example, this Essence one only has 5. So that's about normal for a blush size, but this one just goes above and beyond. And these are fantastic. Yes, it has a beautiful flower pattern on it, but the quality is just incredible too. So I've got two shades here. This one is Coral Cove, one of my absolute favorites, and this one is Love Potion. They do, I think, have 3 more colors, and they are just incredible. They go on beautifully, they're pigmented, they're soft, they're easy to blend. And I would love to see somebody actually pan one of these blushes because there is so much there that I'm convinced you could wear this every day for 3 years and you might not even see pan then. This is a good purchase for your money. For highlighters, I have two options, and this one has been with me for a very long time. This is the Hard Candy So Baked Bronzer in the shade Tiki. It's labeled as a bronzer, but this is definitely a highlighter. I've used this for years and years and years, and there is no dent in this domed product at all. It's a beautiful sheen. It has a little bit more of a yellow tinge to it, but it's not so strong that it would make you look a little bit weird if you were more pink based. It's just really easy to wear. It's beautiful, it's inexpensive, and I don't know, it's one of my favorites, and I've had it for so long that I keep expecting to get bored of it, and I never do, so I can't recommend this one enough. And the other one is brand new to me, and I only just tried it out, I think 2 weeks ago, and it shocked me with how good it was because I was not expecting it. This is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Hello Halo Liquid Highlighter. Now, I'm not a huge person on liquid highlighters. I find them to be rather finicky, and I don't necessarily want to play around with that on top of my makeup. But this one is incredible. This is the kind of highlighter that just blows you away, and you're just like, why did I ever think that you were not going to be any good? For lipsticks, this one might be a little bit redundant because I did just film and post a video on my favorite lipstick formulas at the drugstore, but the ones I have to mention are Revlon's original Super Lustrous lipstick formula and the, well, frankly, anything by Maybelline. Their lipstick formula is just fantastic. The Revlon one, just to briefly mention it, I tend to prefer their cream formulas. Pigmentation is incredible. They have no scent, no taste, and they wear a really long time. The Maybelline ones do have a little bit of a scent to it. Give it a whiff at the drugstore if you're sensitive to scents. I can't ever put my finger on what it smells like, but the pigmentation is beautiful on these. I've tried the Vivids, I've tried what is this one? The matte formula. I'm wearing one of the Gigi Hadid ones right now. Awesome, awesome lipsticks, and they have never done me wrong. All right, moving on to the eyes, which is my absolute favorite part in makeup. But before we can put eyeshadow on, we have to prime our eyes. And if I don't prime, I get creases for days. Like, it's just not a pretty sight. One of the ones I've been loving more recently in the last year has been primers by Essence. So they have two versions, one a little bit more of a liquid. This one is called the I Heart Color Intensifying Eyeshadow Base. This one has a doe foot applicator, so you can just dab it on and then blend it out. A little bit more of a liquid formula. If you're looking for something a little bit more stiff, you could try their potted one. So this is the Essence 2-in-1 eyeshadow and primer. This is interesting in the sense that it has a little bit more color to it. So if you're somebody who's worried about veining on your eyes, you can use something like this because it's got color in it, dab it on and blend it out, and it will cancel out any kind of like veining or grayness or maybe any sallowness that you have on your eyes. And next up is eyeshadow palettes, and honestly this can be one of the most difficult things to find at the drugstore that is consistent across the board. Most brands will put out like one randomly good eyeshadow palette and then all the other ones are just bad. So the two I'm going to talk about are ones that have been consistent across the board and have never steered me wrong. The first one, and it's a newer launch, are the ones by Wet n Wild. These are the best at the drugstore, and I know they're hard to find right now, guys. They're still being launched in stores, but I've been using these for I think 3 months now, and there's nothing else at the drugstore that is better than these. Their old formula was good before they put them in this 10-pan packaging, and I stand by the 10-pan packaging ones as well. These are unreal. So this one right here is Not a Basic Peach, and this has a ton of warm shades as well as some gorgeous transition colors, which was kind of missing from their range before, but they fixed that and now they've got it in here. And this is the one that everyone's been talking about. This is the Rosé in the Air 10-pan palette, and this is a dupe for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. You could buy this without buying the ABH one and you would be perfectly content. The powders are flawless, they are pigmented, they go on so well, and these are $5. $5! These are incredible. So they have a few more natural ones if you're not looking for something as vibrant and perhaps as red as this one, but check these out. I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all. So the other eyeshadow palettes I have to mention, even though they're really only drugstore in the UK and Ireland, Sleek. I don't know how Sleek has had such good eyeshadows for so long, because I feel like almost all the other drugstore brands have taken forever to even get remotely close to the quality of these palettes. This is the Matte Brights palette, and it's unreal. Like, the coloring on here is just incredible, and it goes on how it looks in the pan. This is the Ultra Mattes version 2. This is their darker mattes palette. I use these all the time. all the time with my makeup. If I need a color that's gonna blend into something brighter but it's darker in tone, I reach for this palette. And yes, these are sort of really only available in the UK and Ireland, but they do have really, really cheap shipping to North America on their website. So you might not be able to go buy it in a drugstore, but I would still recommend buying them online because they're not expensive and the shipping is inexpensive as well. So check out the sleek eyeshadow palettes if you have the ability to do so. Otherwise, just stick with the Wet n Wild eyeshadow palettes because you'll be happy with those too. One item I don't have with me right now because I just finished it up is the Physicians Formula Eye Booster. That is a wonderful pen style liquid liner with a brush tip at the drugstore. I've used that one for years and years and years and I love it to pieces. So get that one because that's the only one I can really recommend. I hate the dip pot style, so that's my preferred one for sure. For mascara, I have two favorites, and the first one is the Maybelline Lash Sensational Luscious Full Fan Effect Mascara. This is a very, very wet formula. If you don't like wet formulas, you will not enjoy this one at all. It has a plastic bristle brush and it combs through your lashes beautifully, adds a ton of length, a ton of volume. Love this one to pieces, and this might be like my fourth tube of it. And the other one, which is a natural bristle brush and not so wet, is the Essence The False Lashes Mascara Dramatic Volume Unlimited. They do have two that is in this sort of tube. I always point out this is the one with the orange one. I don't like the one with the pink bottom. I think this one is just as incredible as this one. The effect is a little bit different, but not overly. This one has a beautiful tapered wand that makes it really easy to get into the like corners of my lashes because I hate big ones. I absolutely hate it. And these two mascaras have stopped me from purchasing high-end mascara. There is no point when these are just as good, if not better, than a $30 mascara. And the very last item I have to talk about is for eyebrows. And I tend to buy this in bulk whenever I run out, so it should come as no surprise that I am recommending the NYX Micro Brow. I use the shade Taupe because it works the best for my blonde hair, but they have a whole range of colors depending on what you're looking for, so I don't think that you'll actually struggle to find a shade. The NYX Micro Brow has an incredibly fine pointed tip that just makes it really, really easy to create a brow. I can't really use powder on my brows because I don't have much of them and there is no tail, so I have to completely draw that on. This makes it very, very simple and it is so precise, so you know you're getting it exactly where you want it. Okay, so that's it for my recommendations for a makeup kit for beginners. I think all of these products are incredible and they would be put to good use for, well, frankly, anybody. I think a newbie would be appreciative of them because they're of high quality, but I honestly think that anybody who's used to makeup would love these as well because they're so good. Thank you so much for watching and I will catch you next time. Bye.